on, Clynt.
Yeah. Okay. Good morning.
Right,
There.
all
I
right,
clicked.
all right. Don't worry, we'll minus 20 seconds.
No worries.
I guess we'll
Good
start.
morning.
Good morning, Senator. We'll just go ahead and get right into it and start the clock. Sabrina asked this question to Senator Terlahi, and it is always an awkward one to kind of grade yourself, but 1 to 10, if you could rate your performance as a senator in the Guam legislature.
Oh, okay. Yeah. 1 to 10. 7.
Why?
Lucky number 7. I don't know. Well, I think, I think because I've accomplished a lot of things that I wanted to accomplish, but not everything I wanted to accomplish. So I think I accomplished a decent number of things in my first term, but not everything. So of course, it's not a 10.
Mm-hmm. Well, you did accomplish what, I didn't even think was going to be possible, was the legalization of adult recreational use. Excuse me. Sorry about that. We were talking about substance abuse earlier.
I don't know what's going on with you.
Sorry,
Yeah.
recreational.
Yeah. So exactly. So when I ran, of course, you guys remember you had me on and you guys asked me what my platform was, and my platform was to make Guam green again.
Right.
And I had 5 major green platform points, but everyone only remembered me for the cannabis part.
Right.
But it was green with cannabis. It was green with renewable energy. It was green with agriculture, and it was green with environmental protection, and ultimately green with cash. So I got the cannabis part done. Also green with renewable energy. We managed to pass. I co-sponsored a bill that was originally for 50% renewable energy by 2035. It was in my committee, and I think through my advocacy and me pushing it forward, I also amended it in my committee to make it 100% renewable energy by 2045. So we successfully got that passed. It was passed unanimously. So I count that as 2 major planks in my platform that were passed: green with cannabis, green with renewable energy. And so the reason I think renewable energy is important, I mean, you can see it right now. The PUC and the CCU are considering raising back the rates again because the cost of fuel is outside of our control. We can't control it. We spend that money goes off island. It makes rich oil countries even richer. They don't need our money. We need our money. We need to keep our money here on Guam in a circular economy, and renewable energy does that. So those are the 2 things that I think I passed, as well as some others. I mean, I'm big on the environment. That's green with the environment. I think we need to protect our environment because tourism is our #1 industry currently, and tourists come here for the beautiful scenery of the island. So we got to keep that scenery, maintain its beauty. And that's why environmental protection is so important. And so I've done certain things along those lines. I've introduced bills to create some forest protected areas. We haven't managed to get those passed yet. Those were introduced, but we're still working on it. But we did pass a lot of ban scuba spearfishing. That was Senator Perez's bill, but I co-sponsored it, and I also helped to champion it and push it through my committee and get it out despite a lot of pushback from scuba spearfisher people who are doing it for commercial purposes that I disagreed with. So there was a lot of controversy with that bill. That bill's been attempted in the past by previous senators. It was never passed before because of the pushback they got from members of the scuba fishing community. But we managed to get it passed, and that was another environmental protection bill that I believe will help maintain fish stocks for future generations and for the island of Guam. So I think I've done a lot of things that are in line with what my platform was, and I'm running again because there's a few things that I haven't been able to accomplish in the first term, and a big one that I'm going to push should I be granted another term is agriculture. In fact, I'm going to start pushing it now, regardless of whether I get another term or not. I'm going to get as much done as I can with the remaining months. So I have some bills on deck that I'll be introducing shortly to promote agriculture. Agriculture was a real big part of my campaign. I know a lot of people sort of remember me for the cannabis part, but for me, cannabis is just one part of an overall agricultural industry on Guam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sounds like you got a lot done in that first term, and. Yeah.
Something we haven't heard too much about, Senator, is the Port 7, with you being the oversight of the Port Authority of Guam. You are, right? The oversight?
Yeah. Yes.
And I mean, I just think it's a little interesting that we've had, tons of headlines, tons of stories about these settlements, but we haven't really heard anything out of your office. What's your take on that? Are we going to hear anything maybe in the future, oversight, anything?
Well, right now, I think the port employees have gone through the process. I mean, they've been in court, they've gone up to the Supreme Court, they've been in the Civil Service Commission. Recently, some were reinstated by the Civil Service Commission. And some say, yeah, it's a technicality, but I mean, a rule is a rule. The technicality is a 60-day rule. If they didn't file within 60 days, then they didn't meet that rule. And the Civil Service Commission saw that and said, okay, we have to reinstate you based on a technicality, 60-day rule, for example. But I mean, there's a reason why there's rules. We have to have deadlines for things. You can't just do away with a deadline, and then what's the point of having a deadline? The same is true in criminal cases. If you're not magistrated before a magistrate judge within 48 hours of arrest, then you're released. If you're not, if you assert your right to a speedy trial and you're not brought to a speedy trial, your case can be thrown out. There's a statute of limitations for crimes that are committed for that specific reason, because there have to be deadlines. And if deadlines aren't followed, then you can get the thing dismissed, or you can get reinstated, for example, with some members of the Port 7. So I think for the port employees, they've gone through the process. They've gone through both the Civil Service Commission. They've gone through the court, the lower courts, and Supreme Courts. They bounce back and forth all over the place. So I say, let them settle it and let's be done with it.
All right. One thing, obviously, is it's really big issue is the economy, the budget for the next fiscal year. Tell me what. Can you tell me what the state of the government's finances are and what sort of decisions that are going to have to be made?
Sure. Well, right now, I believe the governor's office they've been meeting a lot with the Office of Finance and Budget with Senator the head of that is Senator Joseph Augustine. So I'm not sure exactly what those meetings have entailed, but my understanding is that I believe that the governor's office has a figure that they believe are going to be the revenue projections for the coming fiscal year. And I believe Senator St. Augustine's revenue projections that the Office of Finance and Budget have come out with are a little lower than that, or I don't know exactly how much, they're lower than it. So I think there's some back and forth talking going on. I don't know exactly what the state is. We have to rely on what the information is that they're giving us. Now, I know there's a lot of talk. The chambers come out, they put something about, they said $47 million shortfall, I believe. But that's a little misleading, because that shortfall is based on collections up till now. But we got to remember, collections are a little delayed because of the coronavirus. You didn't have to file your taxes in April. So that was pushed back. So now we're not going to see what collections are until we should be seeing it real soon. I think the end of July, we should know more about actual collections. And then in the coming few months, right? Because no one had to file in April, so we don't know what the collections are. So therefore, when they looked at year to date, of course, we're behind 47 million year to date because no one's paying anything because we were on lockdown. So there was no one could file or pay anything. So now we're going to actually get a better idea of that once the numbers start coming in, and then we'll have a better idea of what the actual shortfall is. But I think everyone should also remember that we were tracking a surplus prior to the coronavirus, which I think is helping us because we had record numbers of arrivals and everything else. So actually the economy was doing really well right before the coronavirus hit. In fact, there are a lot of senators who wanted to spend all of the surplus money, but rightfully so. Many other people, other senators, and as well as the administration, didn't want to encumber that money for the very fact that we don't know what's going to happen in the rest of the fiscal year. There was talk of there could be a catastrophe. I said it on the session floor. I said, we don't know what's going to happen. What if there's a worldwide calamity or some kind of event that happens, or who knows what could happen to the economy? And here we are spending the surplus money and giving it to other things without knowing what the actual final figure is going to be for the rest of the fiscal year. Well, then sure enough, coronavirus hit, and here we are. So it's a good thing we didn't encumber all of those surplus monies, because the government can kind of use that surplus money that we were tracking in the beginning to make up for some of the shortfalls that we're seeing now. So we're going to have to wait until the final numbers come out, wait and see what the revenue projections are from the administration, the final revenue projections, as well as, because I understand, I think they might be also adjusting the revenue projections. So I need to see what their final revenue projections are and what the Office of Finance's revenue projections are. But I will say for me personally, I always like to err on the side of caution, and I'm more conservative when it comes to spending. I think now's the time that we should tighten our belts. I'd rather tighten our belts now and be conservative with our spending now and cut where we can cut. Not personnel. I don't think we should cut people because it's not going to help our economy to have more people out on the streets homeless because we cut their jobs. So I don't know how that makes any sense. I don't know how that helps the private sector either. If we cut GovGuam employees, those are less people to be able to spend money in the economy and less people to be able to give money to private businesses here on Guam. So I think the answer lies elsewhere. I think there are other places we can streamline the government and its operations and make cuts in other parts of the government and just tighten the belt until we can get the economy back on track.
Do you have any, can you give us some specifics on some of those other areas, Senator, and then we'll just get right into your closing statement.
Sure. Well, I think if we just comb through the budget, you can find areas. For example, a lot of times we fund things like vacant positions. Well, we don't need to fund vacant positions. If we just want to maintain current operations, just don't fund those vacant positions, and then that saves money. There's other ways we can reduce money, perhaps on certain contracts. You know, we have contracts all the time that we pay all this money to these private contractors. Everyone wants to privatize. Then when we pay money to private contractors, they don't maintain things like the Agana swimming pool. So where's our refund for the Agana swimming pool contract? That thing wasn't maintained. That was a private contractor. So we like to blame the GovGuam employees for sucking up all the money. But let's start holding some private companies accountable that are also sucking up some of the money. And maybe we don't need to privatize those things. Maybe we don't need to pay a private company to do it. Maybe we just need to hire one pool guy to maintain the pool or whatever it is. But let's figure it out. It's not rocket science. I know if we comb through the budget with a fine-tooth comb, we can find areas where we can tighten. Perhaps we need to freeze increments. That's another possibility. Maybe we don't let anyone go. We just freeze increments and say, sorry, you're not going to get increments until we get the economy back on track. There's many different options. We just need to explore them.
Mm-hmm. You know, this is your first term. You're getting ready to complete it. You came from the media into the legislature, into politics. Was it all you thought it was going to be?
I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit.
This is your first term. You're getting ready to complete your first term. You came from the media prior. Was it all you expected it to be?
All that and more.
I think I want to hear the more part. No, we are wrapping up.
Yeah.
So just your closing comments and why people should vote for you.
Well, just to answer the question, I mean, of course, I think coming from the media really helped me out a lot in that I was able to cover a lot of news stories, and I covered, Sabrina, I covered the legislature beat and the political beat and the government beat. So I kind of saw a lot of what to expect, and that's what I tell a lot of people is I'm very grateful and very thankful that I had the opportunity in the media with companies like KOM, where I was able to learn a lot about how the government works. And a lot about politics, both the positive and the negative about politics. So I kind of prepared myself knowing that I was entering politics and that there was going to be a lot of things I didn't like about politics, but that I'd have to weigh it with whether or not I think I'm actually getting good things accomplished. And so I think I have been able to. So I'd like to continue to do that. And so I guess I can segue now into my closing. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah.
So with that, I'd just like to ask the people of Guam to vote for me again, and that way I can continue doing the hard work that I've been doing. I believe I'm a very hardworking senator, and I will continue to work hard for the people of Guam. I really just have my best intentions for the island. I just want to see the island be all it can be and achieve what we can achieve, and I think it's possible if we all work hard, put aside our differences, work together, find solutions. I mean, it all sounds very generic, but it's very true. And that's kind of what I've seen in the legislature. There's a lot of that we have to improve on is working together, setting aside differences. And I think I've managed to do that with certain things. And that's how I've been able to get some measures passed that were difficult and controversial. I mean, it wasn't just the cannabis measure that was controversial. The renewable energy measure was controversial because there's people who like the status quo with the way energy is produced. The scuba bill was controversial. Many other bills have been controversial, but I think we got to focus on what's in the best interest of the island and look at the big picture for the future. So for the future, the big picture to me is improving on Guam's self-sustainability in a safe way, self-sustainability. And I believe that things like renewable energy, the cannabis industry, the agriculture industry are going to be huge keys to that. I think we got to start producing our own food. It's safer if we produce our own food. We don't have to rely on imports from outside sources that could go dry. We control our own destiny. Our destiny is in our hands if we take control of it. So
right.
with that, I ask that you vote for me and allow me to continue working for you. Thank you.
All right, there
Thanks,
you go.
Clynt.
Incumbent Senator Clynt Ridgell. Thank you, Clynt.
Great job.
Great
you.
job,
Good job to all
Senator
candidates.
Ridgell. Yeah, so there you go. That was our inaugural first episode of Decision 2020 here on KUAM News 10:02. We'll continue it tomorrow.